the experience I had coming to this country, and I do this a lot, for people, and I said to him, this is inspired me even more, and that's why, according to him, when he asked for the day, it was no brainer. I said February 2nd, lock it down. I'm going to get my time off so I have enough time to talk to you guys. So before we start, I want us to I'm going to ask a favor from David, that David will unmute everybody, or if you can unmute yourselves. Okay, that's the first instruction. You're going to all unmute yourselves. Is everybody unmuted? No. David, can you unmute everybody? Okay, good. Majid, you're not unmuted. Okay, good. No, Majid, you're still on mute. Okay, good. So I'd like a favor from all you guys. I'd like us to give David a very big round of applause, please. Sincerely speaking, from the depth of my heart, now you can be moved. And the reason I say it is simple. I came to this country February 24th, which is about 3 weeks, exactly 3 weeks from now. 3 weeks and a day. I shouldn't forget, because 3 weeks from today is exactly my wife's birthday. So a day after, so we left Nigeria exactly on my wife's birthday. We celebrated our birthday at the airport, and I arrived on the 24th. And when I came to this country 19 years ago, I had no opportunity for something like this. Not even, apart from a few friends here and there who themselves were swimming in the same ocean with me. In other words, clueless, lost, had no idea what they were doing. We're just wading it. But to have somebody who's dedicated his time and commitment to helping folks is something that is highly commendable, and I really appreciate that. David and his other colleagues who are doing this, their time, their resources, setting up Zoom, paying, for all this stuff on their own. So I really, really want to say thank you. I had asked David before today to send me a few questions. If people had questions, I think you guys had questions as you filled out the session for today. So the questions, I have them. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by really introducing myself. That's typically what I do. I'm going to introduce myself. And in the process of introducing myself, I'm going to share my journey with you as I go along the introduction. And chances are that as we go along, you're going to pick up, and I want you to pay attention, because there's some things that I will say along the line as I introduce myself and my path that may sink in for you, may likely address some of the questions that you're really thinking about, and some may not, right? And then hopefully we'll have time. I believe we're here till about 7:30, to address those questions. I'm by no means an expert in immigration. I'm by no means an expert in settlement. But one thing that I have is the blessing of an experience. Experience is not what happens to you. Experience is what you do with what happens to you. Now, my first question to you guys, is there any of you here who is on this call ever been an entrepreneur, in other words, own a business? Anybody? No?
I do.
Who is that? Sorry.
Oh, so my name is RIB.
RIB, okay.
Yeah.
We would like to see your face. David likes to see wants to see everybody's face, RIB. So we'd like to see your face, RIB. Because I have a question for you, just to set this
All
up.
right. I'm also at work trying to multitask. That's the reason why.
Oh boy, you are much special. Okay, so I got a question for you while you're setting your camera on before we know who we're having. As an entrepreneur, if somebody says to you, hiring somebody, the person says to you, or IB, tell me what you need me to do to help you to be successful. Okay? Tell me what you need, because I want to help you to be successful.
Okay.
Will that person be somebody you'll be willing to hire and keep or not?
So I would be willing to hire that person because it shows that you're ready to grow, you're ready to learn. no matter how challenging the task might be, you're
Okay.
showing already that you are ready for the job and you're ready to learn.
Okay. So I said that, I asked that deliberately. So I wanted you guys to know that, because we're going to come, because that's always a very important key part of, the journey that all of us are on. I still consider myself an, somebody who's still on the journey of as an immigrant. So I'm originally from Nigeria. Okay. I was born, raised uh, in Nigeria. Before coming to Canada, I had never stepped outside of West Africa. So I visited countries out, in West Africa. That's the most I had done. Never been abroad all my life. I come from the western part of Nigeria. My family moved. My dad was a merchant, commodity broker, moved to Lagos, which is the financial capital. So Lagos is like Toronto, the financial capital of Nigeria in the mid 60s. So we settled there. I was born in Lagos, started my life, and then I moved up north to northern part of Nigeria. Went to the eastern part of Nigeria for my middle and high school education. I was in a boarding school. We have some schools called in Nigeria called Unity schools. They're owned by the federal government college. And then when I finished, I came back to Lagos, and then I went into college. You call it college, we call them polytechnics in Nigeria for 2 years, where I studied finance. Now, I always wanted to be a banker as a young kid. In fact, at the age of 14 was when I decided I was going to be a banker, because when I was in boarding, remember I went to boarding school, I would go on school and come on holiday. There was one of my cousins who lived with us, and he was much older than me, finished high school. And by the time I came back on holidays, one of the days, he came back from work with his friends from the bank, and they were all wearing suits and tie, and they looked really cool. And I said, man, I like how you look, man. What do I need to do? And he says, you got to take business courses. So that was my fascination with banking. I just love the look, right? I know I'm casual today. I want us to be relaxed, and that's why I deliberately chose to be casual. And I'm on vacation as well, right? So I was thrilled with the look, and every weekend, Fridays, his friends, they would come with him to my house. My house was like a melting point. If you come from my part of the world, most of you, who come from third world, not third world, I would say, who immigrated here, we have a culture where we open our homes, right? All of you, I'm sure, can relate. Where people come in my country, you don't need to give notice before you come visit me. You just, the neighborhood that you come by, whatever I have, we share, we eat, we drink, we have fun, you go. So they will come, and I just got fascinated. At the age of 14, I'll be asking him questions. And he was doing professional exams. He will start talking about banking. He will start talking about law related to banking. And we'll be discussing cases. He and I will be explaining, esprit no fit injuria. If you go to a game and the ball hits you, you go watch a basketball game and the ball hits you, you cannot sue because you signed up to go in there. Like I learned all that, the law of thought in at the age of 14. So clearly, I wanted to be a banker, nothing else. Business courses. So when I finished high school, I went to the college to spend 2 years for my diploma. It was in finance and banking. I finished, and back then, once you finish, you do a 1-year internship, right? If you have to go back and finish the last 2 years. So I did a 1-year internship in a bank. Luckily, I had an uncle who was an executive director in one of the 3 banks. We used to call them the 3 big banks back in Nigeria. Anybody who's from Nigeria will know UBA, First Bank, and Union Bank. So this was UBA, United Bank for Africa. It's still around. So I did 1 year working in the bank there. Now, in my 1 year that I worked in the bank, because remember I was an intern. So as an intern, they just move you around. So one of the jobs that I did was we used to call it cashier, bank teller. You call it bank teller here. So because, they wouldn't give me anything too serious. I wouldn't write loans. I wouldn't do credit, So you put me there, and back in the days, you're going to have a long lineup, and then you will serve the clients and all that. So I learned how to handle cash, how to receive cash, how to pay cash, how to balance at the end of the day. So I spent maybe 6 months in that role, and then they moved me to another department. But most of my 1 year internship was doing that job as a teller. But you know what? I wanted to be a banker. It was fun. I enjoyed it. And so when I finished working the 1 year internship, I now proceeded to go to university because I had a very good grade. I came out with a distinction at my college level, which made it easier for me to go directly into the university. And going into the university with that diploma, I skipped the first year. So I went into the second year in the university. So instead of 4 years, I spent 3 years. Again, remember, I wanted to be a banker. So what did I study? Finance, right? So studied finance, got my bachelor's degree. And then in Nigeria, when you finish university, it's the rule, it's the law. You cannot be employed until you serve a 1 year mandatory, we call it the youth service. Basically, in some countries, like you go for military service where you're required to spend a year. So it's similar. It's like you do a paramilitary training, and the government, the whole idea of the program is to ensure that, because Nigeria is a big country, over 200 million people, over 500, kind of languages that we have, many languages and dialects. So it's very complex. A lot of people are so ignorant when you say you're from, they look at you and they say, are you from Africa? I say, yeah, but Africa is not a country. Africa is a continent. I'm from Nigeria, right? So in Nigeria, you do have program, so you're mandated to do it. And that 1 year while you're doing it, the government will make sure that you're posted to a part of the country that you're not from. So the whole essence is for you to have a cross-cultural orientation. You mix with another part of the country. The government will pay for your upkeep and allowance for that 1 year. And when you go to that part of the country, you get posted to an organization, and some organizations might give you additional stipend. So I got there again. Remember, I wanted to be a banker, and banking is all my life. I got in there. I was posted to go to high school to go teach. I turned it down and said I wasn't going to go teach. I'm a banker. I want to work in the bank. So luckily somebody, introduced me to a few friends, and I ended up in the bank for that 1 year. Again, while I was in the bank, remember I wasn't a full-time, so I moved around departments again. I spent about 6 months being a cashier. Again, remember I did that after my first 2 years. Cashier again, learned, dealing with money back and forth, collecting, receiving, balancing at the end of the day, did other roles. And this was, the further, some of you must have heard about, Boko Haram in Nigeria, like this kind of a terrorist group. They operate in this far further east in a place called Borno State. And that was the state where I was posted. So one extreme to the other extreme. So when I finished youth service, I came back to Lagos. I started my first job I got was with KPMG. I got into the KPMG. I spent about 3 months. I didn't like it. I didn't like the culture there, right? Because there was another firm back then. I don't know if some of you, if you're in the accounting world, you might know them back then. They used to be called Arthur Andersen. They don't exist anymore, right? There's an Andersen Consulting, but Arthur Andersen. Arthur Andersen was one of the top three, in terms of size worldwide. You got KPMG, and you got PwC, and Arthur Andersen was number 3 in the accounting space at the time. So I moved to Arthur Andersen. I worked briefly in Arthur Andersen for about 6 months. I wanted to change. And then a friend of mine came and said, what the heck are you doing working here? He was in the bank. Like, you got to come back to the bank. This is where the money is. Like, if you work in the bank in Nigeria back then, you made money. You got to come to the bank. You said you always wanted to be a banker. And I said, that's true. So stayed 6 months in Arthur Andersen, then I quit. And then went back to the banking industry. I worked in the banking industry for 10 years in Nigeria. Spent most of it with a bank called the NBC. It was an affiliate of Bank Paribas, BNP. BNP Paribas is like the RBC here, but it's about 3 times the size of RBC. It's a French bank. And then in 2002, following a series of events, I rose in my career, and then as I 99, 2000, I'm dating myself here. I got promoted. I became a manager. Now, as a manager in the bank in Nigeria, you're treated well. Okay. I was chauffeur driven, so the bank will give you a brand new car and a driver. I had two housemates that worked for me that were on my personal payroll. If I took my vacation as a manager, it was 6 weeks vacation. The bank will give me 2 return tickets to Europe every year for my vacation. And then the day I say I'm going on vacation, you get 3,000. It was at that time it was 3,150 US dollars vacation allowance in my account. So life was good, right? Life was good, bells and whistles. My wife worked in one of the biggest public relations agencies in Nigeria. She had a car. She was a general manager. Big up there. Life was good. She was chauffeur driven as well. So we lived a good life. But series of events started to happen. As a young man, I started to say, the money is good. All of a sudden, you want to have this, you want to have that. You find out you can afford it, then you can get that. Then you get to a point you're saying, what's next, right? And then what's next? If Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? You're getting like, what's next? All of a sudden, money is not a big deal anymore. And then now you have a family. You start thinking about, okay, what's happening to my kids? Nigeria, some of you may know, it's very wealthy country. Economically, it's supposed to be the biggest economy in Africa, one of the largest OPEC producers of oil. But unfortunately, like a lot of our countries, very, very high corruption, a lot of indiscipline, and just things were just getting worse by the year and by the days, and it's okay, you can survive, you find your way to survive. And then we started to talk with the idea of, maybe emigrating, some things will happen and you go, And then the final straw that broke the camel's back for me was I had gone out. My daughter was, we have 2 kids. My daughter was about a year and a half at the time. I went out that evening to go pick up some things on a Saturday night. 9 p.m., I was coming back and my gate was open for me. I pressed my bell. The main door was open and it was a stranger that was at my door. And I go, what do you want? The guy looked at me and says, come inside. Like, this is my house. Like, who is this? And I'm like, what do you want? He had his hand at the back, right? And then he brought it out. And it was a shotgun he was holding. And he goes, come inside. So at that point, I couldn't say a word. I walked in, my daughter, my 1.5-year-old daughter in my hand. My wife was 6 months pregnant at the time. I got upstairs, there were about 4 other young guys, all 4 fully armed with guns. And I was like, and the stories, we hear stories happen where people just get shot and nothing happens, right? You make one mistake, one stupid move, and that's it. So, cooperated, what do you guys want? They want cash, you want this, they took my ring, give them cash, give them everything. We're lucky nothing happened. Nobody was hurt. One of my drivers, they wanted to shoot him because they said it looked familiar. Because if you're a familiar face, they'll take you out, right? They wanted to kill him, but luckily, nothing happened. Anyway, long and short of it, that was the decision point to say, you know what, I'm done. And so we applied under the skilled workers program. Now it's called the Express Entry. We applied to come to Canada. We looked at different countries, Canada, Australia. We just wanted a country that had that was most receptive to immigrants, right? We have family in UK and the US, and we did a lot of research. And Canada was like, Australia was another option, but the distance was just kind of wasn't something we were ready to deal with at the time. So we said, you know what, Canada is fine, but we can still get visitors. People come visit us or come back to visit Nigeria. And so that was, we went in, did an interview. The guy at the Canadian High Commission looked at all my paperwork at the interview and said, dude, why are you leaving? This is a Greek Canadian, right? Canadian as Canadian can be, right? Not, why are you leaving? I said, listen, I drive a different car when I have to go to work in the morning. when I have to go out in the evening, I have to drive a disguised car. I use a disguised car. So I had about 3 cars, another disguised car that looked really rough on the outside. And he looked at me and says, I understand. All right. So long and short of it, we arrived Canada February 24th. You know what February is in Canada. Remember I told you at the beginning, never been to this part of the world in my life. You know, all I did was saw snow on TV. Right? That was the best. That was the max. And then of course, I'll have some few flakes in my freezer, right? That was all my idea of what snow looked like. So we arrived Canada, 2 young kids, 4 and 2. Luckily, we had a friend who had been here before. They were gracious to host us for a few weeks until we got an apartment. And then, like everybody else, the search begins for a job because you got to feed a family. And, you know, so here I am, like most of you. Remember I told you my story. I came in as a manager with all the bells and the whistles, right? So I start to apply. We have 2 young kids. So we had an opportunity to go learn how to write Canadian. In Nigeria, we write what we call CV, curriculum vitae. In Nigeria, the longer your CV is, the better your chances of getting a job, right? If there's anybody from that, that's how we write in Nigeria, 6, 7 pages, right? That's how you write your CV back then. You know, the longer you got to put all your experiences and your skills and everything. And then we come to Canada, they said, no, that's how you write it, okay? It's 2 pages. Like, how do I fit 10 years of experience and my education and all these awards into 2 pages, right? So we go get the training, but we can't. Remember, we have 2 young kids. Both of us can't go. Somebody has to watch the kids. So that's the first experience. Here I am in Nigeria. I have 2 housemates, okay? So taking care of the kids was not a problem. Come to Canada, that doesn't exist. You can't afford it. So wife had to go first to go learn how to write a resume. It was a week program. She went every day. I did the babysitting, and every day after she came, after dinner, I putting the kids to bed, and she would take me through what she learned for the day. So she was my teacher. Yes, we got to find a way. Again, you know, husband and wife, it's a teamwork. You got to balance it out. So I learned how to rewrite my resume through my wife. Whatever the notes I went through with practice. So got a resume, started to look for a job. I don't know about you, but you know, coming as a manager with all my skills and experience, why can't I get a job? You know, after I put that in my application that this is what I did, and they say, yeah, come to Canada, right? So you come in, you get a manager job. And so I begin to look for the jobs that said manager this, or you know, I looked at, you know, whatever the job description was. After all, I can do it. And I started applying. And nobody's acknowledging my resume. Nobody's responding. Nobody's saying, we got your resume. Like, what's going on? I'm applying, you know. Nobody's acknowledging my resume. And after about a month, I said to myself, you know, I got a family to feed. And a friend of mine had won and said, you know, whatever money you bring from Nigeria, he says, you know, the way we save in Nigeria, you don't save like that in Canada. It's not easy to save in Canada. So whatever money you brought, you know, you have to bring a certain minimum, right? When you do your application as an express interest. Whatever money you bring, you got to defend it. That's the word. You got to defend whatever money you brought. So my wife and I decided after this point, this money in the bank, in my head, even though it's in US dollars and Canadian dollars, in my head, it's Nigerian naira, it's Nigerian currency. I said, I am not spending Nigerian naira. I'm living in Canada. I'm going to spend Canadian dollars now. So what does that mean? That means I got to humble myself. I got to come down from my high horse. I got to get a job. And I don't care whatever the job is, because I got 2 kids to feed. At this point, my wife had gotten a job somewhere, you know, she was, you know, ahead of me. So I started to apply. And the first job interview I got was as a bank teller for 25 hours. So it wasn't 40 hours. I live in Toronto. I don't know if everyone of you lives in Toronto, whoever is familiar with Toronto, but we live at York Mills. We had an apartment we rented at York Mills and DVP. So it was Scotiabank, and it was going to be in a place called Burlington. So I applied. I was called for an interview. I find out how to get to Burlington. Go train. I jumped on the Go train, went to Burlington. I did the interview. I felt good about the interview. We finished the interview. The lady said to me, two ladies interviewed me, and they said, listen, this is 25 hours. Where do you live? I said, I live in Toronto. Are you sure? I said, absolutely. Remember, I told you I was ready I needed a job. So absolutely, give it to me. So I said, okay, we'll get back to you in exactly a week from now. We're still interviewing other people. I said, sure, no problem. So I'm walking out, right, from the office, walking through the banking hall. I get to the door. I don't know if you feel one of those hunches. There's a hunch that hit me. The hunch said, just turn back. I turned back, and I saw the two ladies who just interviewed me laughing and giggling. So imagine how I felt from that place, taking a taxi to the GO station and jumping on the GO train, how demoralized I was, like, oh my gosh, this is not going to happen, right? I got home, kept applying, just kept applying and kept applying and kept applying. And a week, as promised, a call. Mr. I want to thank you, for coming. We had a good interview with you, really, really good interview. Thank you. But unfortunately, you're just overqualified for this job. So, but when we look at your resume, one of my colleagues, they were nice. He said the other lady, or two ladies that interviewed me, the other lady who interviewed me said, the husband works in business banking of Scotiabank. So she's promised to forward my resume to him. Maybe they can look at it, but feel free to pass his number. They were very generous. At least, you know what? That softened the blow, right? It was very demoralizing to say, we're not giving you a job. You're too qualified. However, they softened it a bit by saying, we'll refer you to somebody else. Here's the number. I contacted the person responded and said, yeah, we're not hiring now, but, we'll keep up your resume. So it continued. And, you're trying everything. Then there's one of the recruitment agencies, I'm not sure I remember the name. I'm just going to guess, but I'm not going to mention the name that comes to my head. So you go into their site, you apply as an immigrant, you put in your, qualifications, a copy of your resume, you upload. I did all that. And then as soon as you finish, you're going to get a confirmation that they got your application, and they'll give you a date that you're going to meet one of the recruiters to chat and size you up. So I was excited about that. A day before that happened, I got a phone call from them. And then I picked up the phone, I spoke to the individual, and he said, yeah, I know, you were supposed to meet us tomorrow. I said, yes, unfortunately, we won't be able to meet with you. And I said, why not? He said, you don't have Canadian experience. So I'm sitting there going, what did you just say? He said, I'm sorry, I can't help you. You don't have Canadian experience. We need somebody we can only help people that have Canadian experience. So I said, okay. I dropped the phone and I sat down. I went for a walk, to blow the steam over. Then I came back. My daughter's birthday is approaching. My daughter said to me, I want a bike for my birthday. How do you explain to a 4-year-old that you cannot afford a bike because you cannot get a job, because you don't have Canadian experience? So try explaining that to a 4-year-old and tell me how lucky you get when you do. I'll give you my phone number to call me and tell me, right? So what do I do? The next day, as soon as I cooled off the same day, I wrote an email, went to the website, contact us. I sent a long email just to talk about how disappointing this was and all that. The next day, I got a call from somebody else from the company saying, oh, that's not our policy. We're sorry. We apologize. It's all a good talk. Where do you live? I said, I live in so. Okay, can you come to we have an office close to where you live. Let somebody else meet with you. I went there. They were nice. They talked to me. They interviewed me. They took information. Okay, we'll get back to you. Never heard anything. So at this point, remember I said to you guys, at this point, I'm just looking for anything. So your search, and then I saw RBC was hiring. They were looking for a bank teller. I said, whoa, okay. But now I've learned my lesson. I don't want anybody to laugh at me anymore. So first lesson I learned about resume is if they're looking for somebody who drinks a glass of water in a day, you are going to write in that resume, I drink a glass of water in a day. Even though I have the capacity to drink 5, I drink exactly 1, if that's what you're looking for. So change my resume to feed into what they were looking for as a bank teller. Remember, I had the experience. I wasn't lying. Because when I finished, remember when I finished my diploma, I told you, I spent 1 year, I did tailoring job. I learned that. When I finished university, my internship, my youth service, I learned that. So I can do that. So everything else was tailored. And the other down, I put other experiences that I had. But the first experience I walked in was around, ability to do the job. So luckily, IBC called me for an interview, but it was a part-time pool job. It wasn't full-time. It was pool. You're going to be in the pool, which means if somebody is away on vacation, you go cover them. Okay? So I did the interview, and I remember in the process of doing the interview, the hiring manager got a call, and she excused herself. And the HR person, after kind of listening, she was smart. She looked at me, she goes, Kunle, say, listening to you, this is not a job for you. But I assure you, if you go in, if you do your best, give it your best shot, you will go places in this organization. So quietly there, just she and I, right? I looked at her and I said, thank you, I appreciate that. Right? Now I have somebody in my corner. So long and short, I was offered a job, $11.25 an hour, which is fantastic. So now I could buy a bike for my daughter's birthday. So I was excited. So I started, the first place I was posted was Russellsville, 2 weeks. Remember, it's whenever there's a need, right? So downtown Russellsville, 2 weeks to cover a vacation. And as I was rounding up, they called me and they said, well, they have a place in Etobicoke, but it's far. It's not within your territory. And I said, does the TTC get there? They said, yes. I said, send me. So went to Etobicoke, spent 4 weeks there. As soon as I was wrapping up, the same Etobicoke, Rexler and Kipling, they had another opening for 2 weeks. Well, Kunle, this is not your territory as well, but I said, there's a TTC that goes there, I'll go. So every day I would take 2 trains, 2 buses to work. Remember, I lived at York Mills and DVP. So I'll take a bus from York Mills and DVP to the York Mills station, and I take a subway down to Young and Bloor. I take another subway across from Young and Bloor all the way to Kipling Station. And at Kipling Station, I'll take a bus that will go up all the way north to Rexdale, initially Islington. Within 3 days, my first 3 days, and as a bank teller, we used to have sales. Right? We're given objective, you have to sell, right? And here's Kunle, I got a job, I'm thankful, right? I'm thankful. The first thing I said to myself is, I removed the manager hat, the chauffeur-driven car, the bells and the whistles, the housemates. I dumped it, took it off. Here's the job that I got. I'm going to love it. I'm going to have fun doing it. And I'm going to give it my best shot. 3 days into the role, I was called into the manager's office. I thought I was in trouble. And the head of operations who called me to the manager's office sat down. The manager tossed me. Back then, we used to have a store called Blockbuster. So Blockbuster, if you heard the story of Netflix, you'll have heard the story of a company called Blockbuster. Blockbuster, they used to rent, you go in, you go rent movies. Right then, there was no Netflix. You go rent movies, you pay. So he gave me a $10 gift card for Blockbusters. And I said, I thought I was in trouble. I said, what is this for? He said, we're looking at your 3 days that you've been here with us. You've had the sales that you've had in 3 days, folks who've been here in a month haven't achieved that level of sales. So congratulations. I said, okay. We have an opening for a full-time position as a bank teller. I want to offer it to you. I'm like, I'm just here 3 days. What do you guys know about me? So I asked him, I said, what do you know about me? He said, we spoke to Rexdale and Albion and Islington where you spent 4 weeks. And they said nothing but good things about you. So we're rolling the dice. So I said, thank you. So I got hired full-time now. So instead of roving from branch to branch, I got my first full-time job as a bank teller. Needless to say, while I was there, I did my mutual funds exam on my own. I paid on my own for my mutual funds. I passed. 9 months after, I was moved from there into I was given an office. I became a personal banker. So now I could do loans, I could do Visa, I could do credit cards, I could do mortgages. 6 months in the role, I excelled. I won the cruise. So if there's any of you who knows about RBC every year they do a performance top 1% or whatever in the bank. Good support from the manager, was an amazing guy. Jamie is his name, really, really nice guy, really supported me, understood where I was coming from, understood my story, worked with me. But one thing I got to share to you before, because at the beginning I asked you guys, and Oraibi answered the question when I asked about, an entrepreneur. When I train as a teller, right, there's some pieces of information that I might skip because, if I have to tell you everything, we're going to be here for the next 3 hours. The manager in the branch, one thing he said to me when I sat after the branch where I was trained, the manager, you spend time with the manager, half an hour booked with him. He said to me, wherever you go, wherever branch you're posted, he said, there's something I'm going to share with you. He said, any manager you work with, always find out from them what you need to do to help them to succeed. Okay, and that's why I asked earlier the question, Oraibi, about if you have an employee, right, as a business owner, who is out to help you to succeed, will you keep them or not? Right? So it stayed in my head. Anywhere you go, you ask them, what do I need to do to help you to succeed? Not about what I need to do to succeed, what I need to do to help you to succeed. Because the lesson is this: as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, you want to be successful. And I don't care, okay, the accent, I don't care about the color of your skin, I don't care about your gender, I don't care about your sexual orientation. If your goal is to help me to look good, then you're going to be my shining star. I'm going to protect you. That's the recipe. So that I took away in my head. So when I got into the first branch in Albion and Islington, that's the first thing I learned in Canada, right? People go with the contract. The contract is 9 to 5. At 5 o'clock, you see everybody's backpack, everybody's leaving, getting out of the door. So I will finish and I will go to my supervisor. I said, I'm done. Is there anything else I can help you with? And she'll go, oh, no, we're good. I go, thank you. And I remember one particular day because she was helping the head teller. The head teller was on vacation. And I went to her, I said, is there anything else I can help you with? She said, you know what, I need to balance this. I said, okay, I'll do it. Everybody else is gone. So remember, I'm the guy who is the contract guy. Full-time guys are gone. So I go in there and I'm helping her. How we're doing. And when I finish, I said, anything else? I said, no, that's it. And I said to her, I said, okay, I gotta go. She goes, make sure you write the extra time you worked. And I probably put in extra 30 minutes, quite frankly. For me, no big deal, right? So I'm leaving, got to the entrance, we sign a register. So I'm trying to sign my register. And there's this feeling, you can tell that somebody's ahead of, somebody's right there. I could feel it that somebody was ahead, right by my head. So I looked up. She actually came to make sure that I recorded the extra hour. So she saw me and she goes, make sure you write that extra hour. I said, no, it doesn't matter. She goes, listen, the 30 minutes extra that the bank will pay you means nothing to the bank. But that 30 minutes means something to your family. Now, why am I saying this? Again, to that principle of if your goal is to help your manager, your business owner, whoever you're working with, your goal is to help them to succeed, they will look after you. And that's part of the success, the secret. If you ask, what's the secret? Part of the secret that helped me when I got to the teller job in Rexel and Kipling when I was retained, because I didn't work a 9 to 5. I did what was needed for us to be successful. Remember, I was a teller. They had a branch meeting, and the branch manager was talking about where the branch was and what they needed to do. And I raised my hand up. All the tellers don't talk like they're talking mortgages, talking finances, talking the numbers. Remember my background. I got to bring the skill in. I have the skill. So I'm asking them a question. Why is the branch like this? And then I'm bringing suggestions. And they're looking at me like, who's this dude? This guy's a teller. He can't even understand his accent. And here he's talking about what we need to do, right? People are paying attention. Maybe some people are not happy about, who is he? Is he trying to show off? Some people are paying attention. So I became a personal banker in Rexel and Kipling. I was there for 18 months in the role, and it was time to get promoted. We discussed my career plan with the manager, and I shared with the fact that in Nigeria, my last 10 years, I was in corporate banking. I worked with businesses, and that was ultimately where I wanted to go. So remember, I won the cruise. I was on the cruise with the executives. We talked. They shared about they were creating a new role, business, personal and business AMBP role combined. We came back to Canada. I applied for it. I got interviewed. I got a position. So I moved back to Scarborough office in small business. I was in small business for about a year, and a friend of mine had gone to BDC. But while I was at RBC, small business, I did 1 year there. I moved to commercial. It's a different story. Hopefully if we have enough time, we'll get to that. But I went to commercial, needless to say, at RBC. I worked 5 years in commercial. I wanted career progression. Remember, I came as a manager in Nigeria. Originally, my goal was to be a branch manager. And then while I was in Etobicoke, I had an opportunity to be an active branch manager. An incident occurred, and I said, done. I'm not interested in management no more. I don't want to be a manager in this country. Just let me do my thing. Let me be an individual contributor. Let me get my promotion. Let me get my money, go home and be happy. And so that was what I did. So when I got to commercial, I got promoted, as I performed, I got promoted, I was a team lead in commercial in Richmond Hill, in the GTA here. And then in 2011, so 2010, I remember I just set up my LinkedIn profile. All I had there was my name, Kunle Tauhid, Senior Account Manager, Commercial Financial Services, RBC. That was all. There was nothing else. I got a LinkedIn request from a headhunter. I responded, got a call. They were looking for somebody for a role at BDC for strategy. I'm not interested. I told her I'm not interested. It has to do with operations. I don't do operations. I'm in sales. All I do is sales. I enjoy sales, relationship. That's all I've done all my career. She convinced me about the role and all that. Okay, we got into it. Got interviewed. We spoke with BDC, and I got to BDC. The person who interviewed at BDC, they realized, I listen, this guy has more potential than just doing the strategy role. I said, listen, we have a different role for you. Can you help us? We have an area manager position to manage one of our areas in Scarborough, because the manager just left. And when the senior vice president spoke with me, thought this is the kind of person I might be looking for, right? Because he heard my story about how I said I didn't want to be a leader anymore, right? Because of the experience I'd had. And when he asked why, and I explained to him, he goes, "You're the guy we're looking for." So I took over. The area I took over was really in bad shape. They had a lot of issues. We worked. I got a lot of support from HR. Got a lot of support from head office. We did a lot of things. In 2 years, we turned it around. I won the President's Award of Excellence at the bank. 2016, the opportunity came for the VP position for Eastern and Northern Ontario. Applied, got interviewed, got the position. January 2017, I started there. So that's where I have been, BDC, Vice President for Eastern and Northern Ontario. My office is in Ottawa, but I live in Toronto. I didn't move my house because those of you, I don't know how familiar you guys are with Ontario, but my territory is the biggest in Ontario. We're 5 VPs. So I cover the east, anywhere from Colborne, once you go past Bowmanville, all the way east to the border of Quebec. You get to where Quebec starts on the east, that's my eastern territory. And then I have the north, anywhere north of Barrie to Thunder Bay. So even though my office is in Ottawa, I can't fly when I go to visit my offices. I can't fly from Ottawa directly to the north. You have to fly through Toronto, right? So my farthest office is in Thunder Bay, and from Ottawa is a 3-hour flight. So I'll fly 1 hour to Toronto and 2 hours to Thunder Bay. So that's why I've been. Like I said, if we do this, we can be here till, honestly, hours. So I'm going to pause at this point. And I'm going to hope that in the process of this, some things were probably connecting with some of you, and probably some questions in your head are going, wait a minute, right? I abbreviated part of the story, but that is the story. There's some questions that I had that were sent ahead of time. I don't know, David, whether you want us to go through the questions, or since we have a much smaller group, which I think is more intimate, maybe people can ask based on what you've heard that you're thinking you want to ask. So I'm going to leave it to you, David. What do you think?
I think people should ask questions. And like I said at the beginning of the call, please don't be afraid to ask questions. So it's open now to questions. But if people are not asking questions, then I would say Mr. Kunle can start taking the questions that were sent before. So please ask questions. Okay, go ahead. Turn on your audio.
Mute. You're mute, Marike.
Hello, it's what I was saying. Thank you so much, Mr. Kunle, for the very nice story. It really resonates me and my wife. So I am Egemen and she is Marike. And in fact, we just arrived 1 week before the pandemic.
Wow.
Yeah, so such a good timing, I guess. And we've been through, like, I have a PhD from UK and she has a bachelor's degree. And we been through what you described in our lives, to be honest. Like, we came to here just to establish a family and to understand for the freedom, for the less corruption and all the good things for the Canadian dream. And what we found, though, my perspective, you can tell about your perspective too. She found the job earlier than me. In fact,
that's how it works. That's how it works in Canada. So just
exactly.
My wife was on her 3rd job when I got my 1st job.
And it definitely happened like this. She got the 2nd job, and then I got 1 job, but then we couldn't navigate through the company politics. So and last week, I guess, they let me go, and I was just doing what you described, like I was doing my best. I was a data scientist doing my best. I was doing AI algorithms to help the company. And then they promoted me next week. Like 1 week before they promoted me, next week they let me go off. So I didn't understand what happened in that aspect over there. And similar thing, I guess, happened to you in the company politics, like navigating through which managers to talk, what to do. We are struggling with that. How was your experience?
Yeah. So I gotta say to you guys, it's tough. The time you came in is a difficult time because of COVID, and because of COVID, there's been a lot less face-to-face interactions, right? Almost everything you have to do has been online because you can't meet people, you can't talk to people, and that's a real challenge. One thing I'll tell you, I honestly felt frustrated. Remember, I shared my first experience of the guy who said, "I'm sorry, you don't have Canadian experience," right? But over time, I came to understand that Canadian experience is not necessarily the job, right? And I think that's probably where the challenge might be, the culture, right? The two different cultures. When my kids started school, I remember I got a call from one of the teachers that said, is there anything wrong with your son, Andrew? And I go, what do you mean? Does he have development challenges? I'm like, what are you talking about? Because, and then when this teacher started to explain, I started to laugh. I said, okay, let me explain it to you. Here's the problem. Whenever they were talking to my son would have his head down. Well, if there's any Nigerian who is on here, will tell you culturally, when somebody who is above you, who is older than you, your parent, your teacher is talking to you, as a mark of respect, you don't look them eyeball to eyeball. You got to put your head down. That is how we're raised. Well, in Canada, if somebody is speaking to you and you're not making eye contact, that means you're being disrespectful. Right? So, huge. So, in the workplace, that's the same thing in terms of the culture. My first shock, when I was working in Rexel and Kipling, one guy came to me and said, hey, what are you doing? Let's go for lunch. I'm like, I brought my lunch. He said, no, leave it in the fridge. Let's go for lunch. I said, okay, sure. We go for lunch. We'll finish. The waiter come, how many, 2 bills? He said, yeah, 2 bills. I couldn't say a word, but you asked me, let's go for lunch. Well, in my country, if I say, let's go for lunch, that means I'm going to pay, right? David is laughing. That's true. That's the culture. Again, it's a different culture here. The fact that I invited you for lunch doesn't mean I'm paying your lunch. I'm just saying, let's go, keep me company. You're on your own, I'm on my own. All right? So, cultural difference. So I said that, Eggman said, it could be a culture with the organization. And unfortunately, this is one of the challenges that businesses are having. People are being very careful because they don't want any litigation. So they won't tell you. I can't tell you how many times I had job interviews and they go back to me and they'll say, you interviewed very well, you did so well. I don't know if any of you have said that, so unfortunately, you're not the right. Well, if I did so well, then why didn't you give me the job? Right? But the thing is, they're afraid. They're not, they've been sensitive. They don't want to. And I said, listen, I don't care, but don't forget my feelings. It's my feelings, not your feelings. Tell me what I need to do differently so that I can prepare and be better for the next job. So it could be an issue because if they promoted you, that means you're doing something well. Then what changed? Unfortunately, again, because of cultural assimilation, I think it's just understanding the culture and trying to get into people. I don't know what the company is, but typically when I get into a new place is to try and find people that might have a similar experience in the organization that I can walk you through, here's how things are done here. Here are the kind of jokes. I can't tell you how many times that we'll be sitting in the lunchroom and they'll be cracking a joke and I'm laughing. I have no clue what they're saying, the joke. It doesn't even fit into, I'm just gonna laugh too. Okay, I don't get the joke. I tell my wife is laughing at me. I'm like, dude, I just try to be part. it took years, again, as we continue to walk through racial injustice and diversity. There's a big deal about diversity and inclusion now. So people are a lot more sensitive and willing to listen. And I can say to people, listen, I'm on the leadership council for my organization for diversity and inclusion. And I said, and I have to tell my colleagues on the VP table, and say, listen, you got to understand that we're diverse, we're different. You got to respect and appreciate my diversity just as I do. So there's certain jokes that when I crack certain jokes, those within my Nigerian community would get it, they would laugh. You're going to be looking like, what the heck? I cracked a joke one time when I was at RBC, the regional president was around, and she was like quivering. And one of the guys said, no, that kind of joke is, I'm like, I thought it was funny. She was going to laugh at it, right? So that could be a challenge. And I think understanding the culture, it's very, very important. Sadly, like I said, you came in at a time where there's minimal facial, interactions. New immigrants, you have different programs, and I think a lot of you guys, when you arrive now, a lot of this stuff are done virtually. Like Access, I understand Access has programs before you land. You do everything virtually. Back in the days before COVID, you come in, you actually sit in a classroom setting, you interact with people one-on-one. You get back, you could even get a chance to go do a placement for a few weeks in some organizations. And then you learn so it might not be anything to do with you that you've done anything wrong. It might just be not understanding that culture and being able to relate, right? So what I would advise you is you're going to get a job, right? You're going to get a job. The fact that you even got that experience is important. And when you get an opportunity for an interview, be very honest. Tell them what exactly will happen. And let them know you got promoted and you got fired. And say, maybe there's some things that you didn't understand about the culture. And nobody, explained to you that. Maybe something that you need to learn and you need to prove, and you're open. You're open to learning. You're open to feedback, right? When people understand that you're open to feedback, when I was in Scarborough, my office, my staff, my team used to be called the United Nations team. We had one guy in the team that was at my tail end. There was a white guy, and anytime we had visitors in the office, we did introductions. He would introduce himself as the visible minority because he was the only white guy. He would say, "My name is Peter. I'm the visible minority here," right? Because of the assimilation and the cross-cultural interferences that we had, and those things you can't take it for granted. With time, it's going to change. When I came to this country 19 years ago, it wasn't like this. You guys are lucky. It's better now, right? By 2031, believe it or not, take this statistic. By 2031, the study that we did at BDC revealed that 80% of the Canadian labor force is going to be made up of immigrants. So organizations that are not changing their practices to assimilate and accommodate immigrants will be left out of getting any talent.
This is really helpful. Thank you so much. This was the problem that we were receiving, I guess, in the last workplace. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kunle. Emma, you have a question. You can go ahead.
So thank you so much, Kunle, for sharing your story. And it's really inspired me, and because I can relate with a lot of things you have said. So my question to you tonight is, if you can share a bit of how to tell your story, right? So how you're able to sell your value, even when they don't see value in you. So like, for example, you came with a wealth of experience, you have done so much, but if you need to face the audience or the panel or the recruiter, how are you able to sell yourself to come to pace to what they want to hear? If you can share that with us, it would be very helpful.
So when you say come to pace in terms of the background, in terms of what you have done in the past, is that what it is?
So more like how do you speak the language that they want to hear? Because most times if you're relating to a country they don't know or a culture they don't know, I think that's where they have the problem of Canadian culture. You don't have Canadian experience because they want you to speak the terms that they understand. They want you to relate with the Canadian work environment. So for immigrants, can you share with us how we can tell us our stories, you know, to be able, to measure up or to be able to be accepted by them?
Okay, that's a good question you asked, Emmy, and I appreciate that. It takes a while, you know. Storytelling is very powerful, and I think we miss the opportunity by not letting people know who we are. See, the more people understand your background, I shared my journey with you, you know, 9 months, the branch that I went in Rexdale and Kipling. One of the first things I did was I booked a time, right? And you got to be bold. I booked a time with my leader, the manager, and I said, I'd like to spend some time with you. I'd like to know you, and I'd like you to know me as well. So we sat down, and I told him my story. The story I just shared with you, I shared the story of my journey. Okay? He, in turn, shared the story with his boss. So when I won the cruise, every night on the ship, it was a one-week cruise, you know, with all the executives and RBC. Every night on the ship, they'll put you on the, you know, they'll have an executive seat on your desk. So my table, we had the head of the whole of Ontario. Back then, they used to have one before they now broke it into regional president and all that. And she said to me, right, she was at the head of the table, she said to me, Kunle, I've heard about you from Jamie. And I was like, oh, okay. Remember, I told my story to Jamie. I heard about you, about Jenny. Just tell me a little bit more. I'm curious to how did you? So while we're eating, we're on the table, I said some more. And she goes, wow, no wonder. And I'm like, what do you mean by no wonder, right? She's not able to connect my acumen, my past experience, my successes, because I was in corporate banking, I dealt with corporate clients. I won the cruise from my personal banking from a lower job, a lower position job. So she's going, now I understand why you're so successful and so ahead. And she goes, you know, the next thing I came out of it, I said, you know, we're trying to create a new role that will merge personal banking, which we're doing now, and business banking. And you have a business experience. Says, do me a favor and do yourself a favor. When we get to Canada, call Rod Schaff. Rod Schaff was the one that reported next to her. Rod Schaff was in charge of the GTA. Call Rod Schaff, tell Rod we had this conversation, and tell him you're interested in the position when we started.
Okay.
So we go out to Canada. I said to my manager, here's what happened on the boat, right? I'm a humble Nigerian now. I don't want to make any call because I don't want to get into trouble, right? So this is what she said. My manager said, yeah, go ahead, call Rod. So I call Rod and goes, yeah, you know, your name is up there, blah, 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 blah. So the position came up. So it started with me telling my story. Now, you're not going to tell to everybody, but you tell your story to those who matter.
Exactly.
To those who have the ability to influence your path. They need to know who you are. When we started the journey of diversity and inclusion, I have my colleagues that will sit together because, you know, for a time we didn't have a boss at BDC. You know, last summer, and I said, listen, guys, after we had this conversation and we started to have closer chats, you know, we decided, you know, on a weekly basis, each of the VPs were going to talk to ourselves. And you know what I did? That was my opportunity. I said, the first meeting, you know, I said, why don't we start by knowing more about each other? This is somebody who's worked with me for 2 years. So let's start by just knowing more about each other. Then I shared my personal story that I didn't even tell, some things I didn't even tell you guys, my upbringing, my family, how I was raised, and I shared all that with him. And he just kept going, wow, wow. That was all he kept saying, wow. And he was writing notes. And then all of a sudden he says, okay, I'm going to share my story with you. And he shared an incredible path of his past that I was like, what? This is the guy I come to work with every day. And I didn't realize. So all of a sudden, it made me understand, you know, when we're in a meeting, you know, and sometimes our meetings are usually very heated. And, you know, you get somebody who's very passionate, and this guy is so passionate. Now I connected with where he's coming from. because I know his story. He knows where I'm coming from. So he's my advocate. He's an advocate for me, even when we're talking about some issues. Now he knows. So make sure that you're sharing your story. You know, there's so far meritocracy can get you far. And I know all of you are here that hardworking guys, strong, you know, committed. But when you get to a certain level in your career, there's how much meritocracy can take you. There's going to be a point whereby they're going to be discussing names when you're not there. And when you don't have a sponsor, I call it a sponsor. When you don't have a sponsor in that room, your name is just going to be passed.
Yeah.
And the sponsor is somebody who knows your story. Because when you get there, when they're bringing reports, and everybody's report is there, your performance, everybody's there, right? What is going to differentiate you is that sponsor. Because they know your story. They know who you are. They know what you're capable of doing. And so this sponsor could be your direct manager or mentors within the organization. I'm a VP. I have mentors that I handpick on my own. Nobody did it for me. You got to find them in the organization who I know will be at some tables when they're discussing, and when my name comes up, based on the fact that we connect on a time-to-time basis, there's certain things that my job doesn't show, but they know about my passion, what I stand for, what I represent. And I know they will definitely speak up. So I have a mentor who we're the same level, who just got promoted, is one level ahead of me. Chose him as a mentor. We're colleagues. I have a mentor who will do almost the same thing, the same organization. And I have a mentor who used to be my boss 13 years ago. He still works for RBC. He's a top VP at RBC. And from time to time, we talk. And then I have an external mentor who is not within the financial services, who we started our career journey together in Nigeria, who is a friend, who went a different path. I went financing, went accounting in Canada, became executive VP in another organization, runs his own consulting business right now. He's seen it all. And it's not like, for that one, it's not like we book a time, but I'll just, hey, you got a few minutes? I want to run something by you. And he goes, yeah, let's talk. And we'll talk. And 15 minutes, I've taken some ideas to run with.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Hope that's helpful.
Oh, yeah, really very helpful. And basically, I learned tonight that, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay. So we should be very bold to share our story, and more especially to people that are relevant. They can speak on our behalf.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kunle. So Tariq, you have a question. So Tariq, sorry, Kunle, after Tariq, you ask your question because Tariq raised his hand first. So Tariq, go ahead, please.
So here's the deal. I committed up to 7:30 with Fresh Start Hub. However, if there's any of you who wants to stay behind, I can put in another 30 minutes. Okay, I'm happy to stay till 8 o'clock because I know we started a bit late. So, if anybody wants to leave at 7:30, by all means, you can leave.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for that. So Tariq, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, David. Thank you, Kunle, for sharing all of your wisdom with all of us. So I came from Morocco 2 days before COVID, all by myself.
Wow.
Oh.
And since March, I've been navigating this whole journey by myself, a lot of ups and downs, but overall, I would say with certainty good results overall. Still, now I'm back to the starting square. I'm still seeking a job, and all of that related to the aspect that Kunle talked about regarding the office politics and the cultural adaptation. Coming from Morocco, we have this passionate way of communicating. We are really warm people, and in Canada, it is quite different. People are somewhat conservative. You need to soften your way of speaking, like you need to make a lot of effort in order to communicate something less passionately, I would say. Well, still so far I'm made good adaptations and I'm still learning every day with people. My question regarding to Kunle is about all of us international trained professionals. How can we value our international experience in front of recruiters, and is volunteering in the community and the professional certifications are good to counterweight our lack of Canadian experience? Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. That's a good question. First, I got to say, you got to make sure you're connected to Egemen. You know, you guys have a lot. Considering the time you arrived, it's always good to share stories. Hopefully, you can inspire each other from that. But I said because I work with entrepreneurs, I said to entrepreneurs, as much as you can provide pro bono services, provide them. Free service. That's what pro bono is, basically volunteering, right? Volunteering is a big deal in Canada. My daughter just graduated York University. This was the one that wanted a bike, remember? Told you the bike story. She graduated York University in August. And while she was in university, she was volunteering for the MLSCA, so Major League Sports and Entertainment. This is the organization that owns the Toronto Raptors. She was volunteering and doing, when she mentioned she was going to get interviewed for it, and I thought, oh, wow, that's awesome. You're going to get hired, make sure you get me Raptors tickets, right? So I can go watch Raptors. He goes, no, there's no pay. This is volunteering for youth advocacy and whatever. She's into all that. And she got interviewed, she got hired, she got in, and she was volunteering her time. They will do sessions and they will do different things. Well, she graduated in August. She had a job while she was in the university that she kept. But just 2 weeks ago, she started her first leave job post-graduation. And how did she get it? It was a posting that came out through MLSC, the Blue Jays Foundation. And because of the fact that she already had that experience on her resume for volunteering, I mean, that wasn't the main reason. I'm sure she also interviewed well. She's smarter than me. She got a job, right? So for the Blue Jays Foundation, that's kind of what. So volunteering is very important, Tariq. And two, I must commend you, right? When I'm in a different audience, I speak differently. I speak and I pick my words just like you did. That's something I just noticed now. You're speaking so that they can, because that's the thing we have as immigrants. They say, slow down. I remember when my boss would say, slow down, right? Because I forget that I'm not sitting among Nigerians, because when I speak, or Hita can understand what I'm saying, MA understands me. I can go even fast. I can speed it up. They get it. They can hear me. They can understand. When I go like this, sometimes I notice sometimes I'm in the audience, my team, my managers are looking, I go as if there's a problem with their ear. It's not their ear. It's me. They're saying, slow down, right? You took the first person well. You're speaking well, slowly, right? That's a very, very important. And I think that's going to help you go a long way, right? If I'm in a different audience, I'll slow my pace as well, right? So that's important. And I think that's a good starting point. But sometimes, as I shared my story, I don't know if you're here, Tariq, at the beginning, but sometimes you have to take a step back. When you come to Canada, again, it depends on everybody, but I'm sure you're here to stay. I don't know, right, about you, but when you're here, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. One of the first things one of my friends said to us when we came, he says, Canada is slowly but surely. I still remember that, right? And that was one of the things that helped me to say, you know what, I'm taking a job that does not tell who I am and what I'm capable of doing. But you know what? I will take it. And I'll prove to you how I can add value to you and the organization. There's a part I didn't tell you, okay? In 2005, when I was a small business, the deal at RBC is you have to spend 2 years on the roll before they can move you. You can apply to another role. That's the deal. When you start to tell you, whatever role, some roles is 3 years. It was 2 years. A friend of mine, who were professional colleagues in Nigeria together, who was here with me, was at CIBC, I was at RBC, had just gone to work for the BDC, the Business Development Bank of Canada, where I work now. But this was 2005. And he called me and he said, hey, I said, this is commercial banking. You want to come? I said, sure. Gave him my resume. He gave his boss. They looked at the resume like, this is the guy we're looking for. They interviewed me, offered me the job. I was 9 months into my role as the small business account manager at RBC. I walked to my boss to say, I want to thank you. I'll be moving on to another organization. And my boss looked at me and said, what do you mean? I said, I got another job. Her face turned red. Seriously, she got up, she locked the door. I was afraid. I thought she was going to attack me physically. She goes, what do you mean you're leaving? I said, I shared my story with you. You know my background. I mean, before I came to Canada, I was in commercial and corporate banking. That's what I ultimately want to get to. At RBC is like a ladder. You have to climb step by step. You have to take one step. There's no, okay, you are a data analyst, you're calling, okay, we're going to give you data analyst. No. You have to go through that process. Right? So remember, I had come in, I had proven myself. The part I didn't tell you was when I did the interview for small business, the person who interviewed me for small business, I didn't realize that she was 6 months ago, she was sat at a gala where I won the cruise. I didn't even know she was there. She saw me, she realized that this guy's a top performer, but she pretended. She just interviewed me hard. Meanwhile, she was giving me the job. So people know. So when I told this boss I was leaving, she looked at me and goes, why? And I said, I told her my background. She goes, what if I got into commercial at RBC? I said, what about the pay? She said, I will match the pay. What do you think I was going to say? I said, okay.
Mm-hmm.
She said, take your letter. She had a shredder. I said, put it in the shredder in her office. She made sure I put it in the shredder. So go back to your office. I went back to my office. A few hours after she called me, she goes, I've spoken with my boss, who has spoken with his counterpart in commercial, and we'll move you to commercial. I was an account manager. I was going to go to commercial as a senior account manager. With my pay was going to be about $24,000 more than I was making. Now, you don't get that kind of increase in any organization. They give you like this, 2% increase, 3% increase. That's how they give it every year. So I'm like, so I said to her, I said, well, why are you doing this? Because I was now worried, like, is there a catch? I said, why are you doing this? You know what she said? She said, I would rather lose you than for the organization to lose you. Now, why do you think she said that to me? Because she liked my accent? Because I was the most good-looking Black guy in the organization? No, because I had proven to them that I'm worth more than what you're paying me. I would take the job that you're giving me. I will give it my best shot. I will not work as if I'm working for this low person. No, this low position. No, I'll give you more than you're paying me. And then I will cash in. That's how it works. They give you a $15 an hour job. You go do a $30 an hour, produce a $30 an hour result for them. And then when it's time to cash in, when you say, okay, you make your demand, they don't want to lose you. That's why I said at the beginning, there's no way a good manager, every manager wants to succeed. I'm a VP here, I want to succeed. I have targets that I have to meet. When my top producers come to me to make a demand, I don't blink an eye. When I was in commercial, we had a central printer. I don't know if some of you have offices where there's a central printer. So from your office, you send something, you go to the central printer. I did my quarterly review one year with my boss, and he said, amazing, amazing. I just sent him a a picture. I was cleaning my wardrobe yesterday, and this is timely. I actually sent this to him, and I'm going to read it to you. He still works, he's still a top brass at RBC. So this was a letter I found as I was cleaning my stuff. I found this letter in my wardrobe, a letter of commendation that he sent. I'll read it to you. This was dated July 24, 2009. He said, Kunle, congratulations. You're #1 in percentage and dollar revenue growth. And he put check behind it. It has been a steady and consistent climb for you to the top. It is interesting because those are two of the attributes that I see you demonstrate daily and over time. And it is wonderful to see it pay off for you and translate into superior financial performance. This is a hallmark of a high performing professional. Well done, Blake. And then he now wrote in his handwriting, this is the email, then he wrote and I said, Kunle, take your family out for a movie. Tell them your manager thinks you are awesome. Because he added a movie certificate in the email that he brought to me. When I did this review with this boss, who finished the review, he looked at everything was excellent. He said, Kunle, how can I help you? What do you need? I said, I don't need anything. I said, it's a lot of manpower that I waste. Each time I print something and I walk to the printer, I come back. I said, can I have a printer in my office? He said, that's it? I said, yeah. I called his assistant. I said, do whatever it takes, get the printer for Kunle in the office. I don't know what she did. She got the approval. I was only, of the 16 of us in the office, the only guy that had a printer in my office. And my colleagues would come to my office, we were chatting. And I go, wait, you got a printer? I go, yeah, I got a printer. How did you get it? I said, go ask the boss, right? He said, tell them to come meet me if anybody asks you. Because I'll tell them, produce Kunle's result, I'll give you a printer. Right? So you got to prove yourself each time and every time. You got to be the better version of yourself all the time. Like, this is what you did. You're going to be your own competition. So Tariq, you will get it. You will. And you're going to look back and say, Kunle told me, slowly but surely. Kunle G, you have a question?
Yes, so Kunle, you can go next. And after you, Aswat will go.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Kunle.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Kunle. I've learned a lot from what you said. I've learned emotional intelligence in, integrating into the Canadian work system, the Canadian culture in the workplace. Also, I've learned about performing and outperforming, such that you're working towards your vision. If your vision in the long term is to be a manager, even if you're a teller right now, work and see yourself as a manager. Put it in the extra, put it in everything to achieve your goals. You also mentioned mentorship. Mentorship, picking the right mentors. That's the aspect that I would like you to maybe please give a few tips, because personally I've been seeking out mentors, people that I have looked at, their long-term achievements and where they are right now, and that is where I would like to be, or where I see myself. Connecting with these mentors, and connecting goes both ways. So you're reaching out to them, but they also have to reach out to you, or want to be able to receive you and mentor you. So I would just like you to please discuss tips in sharing my story with them, to also connecting with them and having them also add value to me in taking me by the hand in navigating Canada and the workplace and the industry and everything else. Sorry, I should have introduced myself before. I'm also in the financial services industry right now. I came into Canada in March. I've been also navigating or trying to navigate the Canadian environment and work system and culture and applying to jobs and everything else. I just would like you to, just shed more light on picking mentorships and connecting with mentors. Thank you.
Good question. Thanks for the question. So here's the thing with mentors. A lot of times, when we're looking at mentors, I just share with you about, the span of people that I have in my corner. Now, for some people, when they hear the word be my mentor, it sounds like a big obligation. And the first thing they're afraid of is time commitment, right? So for me, I don't use the word mentor. I know it's mentorship, but I don't use the word because I don't want to scare people away. And what I say is, listen, from time to time, I like to pick your brain, and I really appreciate if you don't mind, right? So I have some that I have permanently booked time because they're okay with it. Some people are going to be okay because a lot of people, I'll tell you, a lot of people, especially immigrants, want to help. They want to help. I can't tell you how many people I have connections with that I talk to from time to time. But sometimes it sounds like a burden when you want to, okay, we're going to meet in every month. So it scares people away. So one trick that I use is, listen, I can learn a lot from you. And sometimes this is what I do. Because I run into challenges. If you don't mind, from time to time, I just like to pick up your brain. If you don't mind, I'll give you notice and whatever works for you. Because you're taking from them, right? You have to be flexible to stay. So whatever works for you, right? So I make it non-intrusive, right? So to say, when I throw that out, and most of the time, a lot of people, luckily for me, because a lot of people know who I am, right? Like the ones in the organization, I'm well known in the organization. I'm well respected in the organization. So even me reaching out, right? People think, what this guy is, but I'm not as smart as they think sometimes, right? But you know what? It's Kunle that is reaching out. I want to talk to him. And there's some people that will want something formalized. So if you understand the person's style is, they want something formalized and we're agreeing on once in a month, right? But if somebody agrees to work with you, through mentorship, you have to be prepared. In other words, before you go, like get them ready. I like to discuss two things, or I like to discuss one situation and you give them a heads up. It's a note, you send it to them. It's like an agenda, basically, but don't call it an agenda because it looks too formal now. And you know what? I like us to discuss ABC or this situation, right? You throw it at them, they kind of get some time to prepare. And there's some other people who are just so busy. You know what? It's understandable. Don't take it personal. If they're really so busy, I'll tell you, ask David here. David reached out to me through an individual when COVID hit. He reached out to me on LinkedIn, and I'm very generous with LinkedIn. I'm happy to help people. Like you reach out to me, I'll accept it. I accepted it. And he said, I'd like to, I have this podcast, blah, blah. And I said, dude, I am busy to the teeth right now. I can't do no podcast. That's one thing about me. I would tell you, right? I would tell you, I can't. Because when COVID hit, BDC, we were basically the vehicle through which the government, was reaching out to business entrepreneurs and businesses. So I was working till 10 p.m. most days. I would start at 8 a.m. I was leading my team. I was helping other teams. Like, it was insane. I said, I can't. And unfortunately, I couldn't, right? But here's one thing with David. He didn't give up. You know what he did? He connected through another buddy of mine, a really good friend that he and I used to work in RBC. And the guy sent me a message and said, I like you introduce you today. I'm like, oh, this dude. That's why I said to my wife, I said, this guy never gives up. My wife was laughing. I said, this guy never gives up. She knows what I told him the story. I said, okay. So I said, listen, I'm happy to work, to connect with him. But truly, which was true, the time he reached out to me, I couldn't, right? So sometimes people might not be available because, something is going on in their life that you don't know, not because they don't want to help you. If they say, check back with me, check back with them. But find, there's it doesn't have to be specific, right? It's a journey. Remember, I said it's not a sprint, right? It's a marathon. If that individual is not, find somebody else, right? Because you're not going to get somebody that's going to give you all the answers that you need right away. It's a piece here, a piece there, a piece here, a piece there. It's just like talking about your career and taking ownership of your career. You don't go to your boss and expect your boss to tell you what your next path is. You go in and tell your boss where you want to go. This is where I want to go. So my question to you, Mr. Boss, is how do I get there? Show me what I need to do to get there, because this is where I want to go. So that's the same thing with a mentor, right? You find, it might be in your industry, it might be in the same organization, it might not even be in the same field. Like, the mentor doesn't have to be. It might be just somebody who's had some life experiences that they can share with you, right? It might not be the same profession at all. So you're going to widen your spread, like just spread it out. If this one says no, that's okay. Find another one. I just want to pick your brain. Keep it simple. Don't use the word mentor. Some people, like I said, that word mentor will throw some people off, like, oh, I might not have answers. I don't want to look stupid now. This guy's going to be asking me questions that I can't answer, right? Like, I just want to throw something. I want to share your word of experience. I think that might be a trick, Kunle.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kunle. Before we get to you, I just want to quickly buttress what he said. So, for example, when I started the podcast, it was one of the people. So I made a list of people I want to reach out to and that I wanted to interview. So it was one of the people I wrote their names, and then I reached out to him. Like he rightly said, he was very busy. Then somebody else connected us from the 1 Million Teacher founder, Akim. He connected us, but he said he was busy. And the interesting thing was when I was talking to Amit, who connected us again, he mentioned that, he spoke very highly of him, and he said, have you spoken to this guy? I think he's one of the people you should speak to. And I said, oh, that I would love it if you would connect me with him. And this part, I've not told you, Mr. Kunle. I had this conversation with Amit in October, and then Amit also got busy. But then I followed up with him again in December and said, if you don't mind, and then that was when he did the introduction. I said all of that to encourage you, Kunle, that people don't take it personally when people say no to you. I come up with excuses for people all the time. So come up with excuse for them. Don't think of the worst, that, oh, maybe they don't like me, or maybe they don't want to have anything to do with me. Just think of the best. Maybe they are busy, they have things going on with their family, COVID has happened. You don't know whether they even have COVID, right? Or maybe somebody in their family has, you don't know what people are going through, right? So just assume the best of people. And also, like you rightly said, increase your reach, ask people. If I tell you the number of no's, there are times when if I don't receive a no in a day, it seems like, what's going on? Like, I feel like something is wrong with me. Like, it's not that I want no's, but because I'm used to it. So just take it in good stride and move on. And people will say yes to you eventually. And like you rightly said, don't use the word mentor. I've never had a mentor before in my life. It might sound weird, but I have over 20 people who, if I pick up the phone today and say, I want to have a chat, they will say yes. Why? Because I have built that relationship. So don't throw people away, because let me tell you something. There are jobs that I have had I've interviewed and they said no to me. And the person, like, it's draining, it's painful to get in rejection. But guess what? I still keep connection with those recruiters. And some of those recruiters, that I keep that even though I didn't get jobs in those companies, I've said yes to career information sessions on Fresh Start Hub, right? For example, so we are already having those conversations. If I thought at that time I didn't have any idea of Fresh Start Hub and thought, you know what, let me just throw them away and be bitter because of that. Life is more than that. You never know. The person that told you no yesterday might eventually tell you yes. So ask what your question.
Thanks, David. Thank you so much, Mr. Kunle, for sharing your story. It really resonates with a lot of us. And my question was, how do you transition from one industry to another? So a little bit of a background. I completed my engineering in India, and I worked at Ford Motor Company for close to 4 years. And I came to Canada last year, and I've done my MBA from Queen's University. And despite that, and I wanted to get into the financial services industry. However, like whenever I make my applications, one of the it does not get through to any recruiters, and I've not had any positive feedback from them, or I've not heard back from them. So how do I transition from my engineering background to the financial services? And if you can share some tips on that, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, that's a good question. When I was in Scarborough, I hired a guy. Again, backgrounds differ, experiences differ, right? Like where we come from, Kunle Ji can testify. If you guys here, and I'm sure some of you also can. Back, if I'm looking for somebody to work in the bank, I can look at a resume. I can see the transferable skills, and a lot of times when we hire back, Nigeria, I will hire based on the transferable skills. But it's different in Canada. In Canada, it has to be word for word. Like I said earlier on, they say they want somebody who can drink a glass of water in a day. That has to be reflected in your resume, right? So it depends on, sometimes it might be chance and luck. Like I hired a guy when I was in Scarborough. He went to one of the top engineering schools in India, so engineering degree, got his MBA, came to Canada, started to work for PwC. He had been 3 months in PwC when he came to interview. I interviewed him with another manager, and I was done interviewing him in 20 minutes. And the other manager looked at me because she knows me. Like when I interview, the more difficult I make your interview, the chances are that I like you. That's why I make it difficult, right? When I really push what I want you, I push the interview so hard that you leave thinking, oh gosh, I've screwed up. And then next week you get a call saying come for the second one, and you go, what? Right? And so I did this guy 20 minutes, and my colleague, after we left, goes, that's it? I said, yeah. Calling for the next interview. Go, what? Calling for the second? You just interviewed him for 20 minutes. That's not your style. Because when I heard about his background, engineering background, okay, for me, when I'm hiring in the financial services world, I go outside of the box, right? Engineering background, I look at engineers as people who learn to solve problems. So if I'm hiring somebody in credit, our job in credit is to solve problems. Our job in dealing with clients is to solve problems. That's what we do during entrepreneurs. So somebody who has an engineering background will get an interview with me first before somebody who studied finance. Even though I studied finance, right? But that's the reality of the role that we're in. So for you, changing careers, I think it's just, I don't know what kind of roles you're applying for, because this is brand new for you. And I know how it is. You had your master's, in Queens, you got Canadian Queens education, and that's awesome. That's great. But the truth and reality, I've had people who've come to this country and asked me, should I apply for a job? Should I go do my master's? And I say, listen, you want the truth? Go get a job. Go get a Canadian experience. Go get the skills. And once you're in, go do your master's. Right? Because in this country, it's about what you can do, not what you know. This is how it works in this part. It is what you can do. And so it's just getting the opportunity as what the getting, right? The skill set that you have will help you to be successful. Believe me or not, will help you to be successful. It's getting in and stay in the course and staying patient, right? You've already trained yourself. You're going to get an MBA, right? You can apply that, but you have to now take that humble pie if necessary, right? To get a foot in, we call it get a foot in, and then prove what you're capable of doing.
Yeah. Thanks, Mr.
Helpful?
Kunle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For those of you who have couples who are married, when we came in here, I told you my wife was a public relations guru in Nigeria. She was one of the top. We came to Canada, public relations is different here. We found out quickly that it's not the same. You know, back then you're generalist. You handled public relations, you did marketing, you did public relations, you did marketing, you combined. We had a department that did advertising. They had shows for Coca-Cola, for Guinness, for all the biggest brands. It's totally different here. So what did we do? We needed to survive. That's the first thing. So the job that she got was just get a job to survive. While I was doing my tailoring job, she did it for 1 year, and we decided, you know what? Time to change careers. We're going to make a decision quick. Time to change careers. So what do you want to enjoy? What do you want to do that you will enjoy? To work with kids. Okay, let's go for it. So left school, went to a school where she was supposed to do 2 years is ECE program. If you heard about the ECE, she went to do the ECE program. She spent 1 year. So it was like really jammed. Instead of 2 years, she did it for 1 year. Shifted gears, finished. As soon as she was finishing, she got a job before she even finished. It wasn't paying big deal, but you know what? We had 2 young kids. She worked for YMCA. 2 young kids in daycare. That was my salary, or a little bit more than my salary. She got the daycare because she worked for YMCA. She was getting 50% discount. So that helped. She did that, and then she rose through the ranks, because as soon as she got into the role, they find out that, you know what, this woman knows much more. She's higher, you know, and then she began to prove herself. And then within a year or two, she became a supervisor, and then she became a manager, and then on, and she became a director until she quit. She works for the federal government now, right? So once you are in, again, slowly but surely. Can we take one more question?
Yes. So if you have questions or question, please go ahead and ask before we have 5 more minutes to go. And thank you so much, Mr. Kunle, for extending it.
Louis, you've been quiet. Louis has been quiet. I like the background. You have a flag of Canada there. There's another flag, Louis.
It's a Peruvian flag.
Oh, so, Peruvian. That's cool.
Basically, okay, I have been here in Canada 10 years, but...
How many years?
10 years. It's very interesting, and thank you so much for sharing your story. And yeah, it's...
So Louis, you're the one that sent me an email, right?
Excuse me?
You're the one that sent me an email.
Correct.
Oh, okay. So Louis work at Coca-Cola, right? And it would also be one of the mentors in one of the subsequent months. Thank you so much, Louis, for joining. And I think Louis joined so that I can have an idea of how his own session is going to look like. But if you have any question, Louis, please go ahead and ask, or you can introduce yourself to the people on the call.
Okay, a short introduction. Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining these sessions. I think you have the opportunity to do that, to have this, and I wish I had these opportunities in the past. But as Kunle mentioned, we have different backgrounds, but the same story when we come to Canada. So the Canadian experience that many people mentioned, we lack of this. And yeah, I will tell you that, and I was hearing the stories. My wife also got a job 3 months after she came after me, but for me it was like 3 years to get the dream job.
Wow.
Okay, but as mentioned as well, it was voluntary, participating in the society. in the new culture is very important. And I did that. And of course, yeah, it paid off. But yeah, I will tell you my story in another opportunity.
All right. Thank you so much, Luis.
Thanks, Luis. Thanks for doing this as well. Really appreciate you on.
Thank
Well,
you.
7:58. I guess we should be wrapping up.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for being a part of this. And thank you, Mr. Kunle, for your deep insights. And I hope you all had a lot of things to take away, and it was worth your time. For me, I learned a lot. It was really, really worth my time. And while we were on this call, my wife texted me, "Are you guys not done?" I said, "You don't even want to know. I wish that this can continue. So it's so good." But yes, thank you so much. Thank you all for being a part of this. It's very interesting that 40 people registered, but only 11 people came. So, but it doesn't really matter. It makes the room to be more cozy, I would say. So thank you all so much for coming. And please, I will be sending out a survey. Please fill the survey to the best of your ability, and also honestly, it will help me, it will help the Fresh Start Hub to improve whatever feedback you have for us. And also I will share some of it with Mr. Kunle, just so that, it can as the feedback, but please make it honest. We need the honest feedback in order for us to improve and be better. So don't, and again, your name won't be on it. So I'm not going to attach it that, oh, why would this person say that? Say it as it is. Please don't sugarcoat anything. Be honest about your feedback. Say it as it is. If you want to be critical, be as critical as possible, because that's the only way we can improve. So once again, thank you so much for attending. And thank you, Mr. Kunle. Thank you so much. And have a enjoy the rest of your night, and God bless.
Thanks, guys. And it's been a pleasure meeting with you guys. Good luck, everybody.
Yeah.
Stay in touch. I'm on LinkedIn. Okay, if anybody wants to
Thank
connect.
you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
So
All the
much.
best.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Keep optimist and safe.